Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Frogbit blog podcast. Help, I'm being attacked by the beast from the east.
The Frogbit blog.
So, welcome to episode 20, The Beast from the East.
The Frogbit blog.
For those of you not listening from the UK, we've had 3 days of snow and it's brought the whole country in the UK grinding to a halt. To be fair, we have had shit weather, yeah. We just all thought winter was over. I mean, I was out in the garden the other week. I'm sure I was in a t-shirt. That just seems like a distant memory. And it's the cold weather has come back and bites us on the ass, as they say in America. And we've just had the beast from the east. Now, since when did the weather become so cool and groovy? The beast from the east. And last year we had something called a weather bomb. Was that sort of planted by some weather terrorists, was it? Bloody Muslim weather coming over here, bombing our skies with the weather bomb. When I heard of the weather bomb, I actually had to look it up. I didn't know there was something called the weather bomb. And is there someone there in the Met Office or somewhere making all these turns up? Have they got a resident stoner or something? Yeah, man, what should we call that rainy day, man? I know. What about a fucking weather bomb? Yeah, man, that's far too fucking outrageous. We'll never get away with that, man. Look, we're gonna have some snow, man. No, not snow, man. We're gonna have some snow, man. I know. How about the beast from the east? Fucking crazy, man. I mean, what's next? The prevailing wind is gonna be the pest from the west? The screaming mouth from the south? I can't even think of a rhyme for north. To be fair, though, it has been pretty bad, but it does bring out the best in people, but also the worst. There was a hospital where loads of the staff offered to stay overnight so that operations and stuff wouldn't have to be cancelled because they wouldn't be able to get the staff were worried about not being able to get in next day. And guess what? The management tried to charge them £25 for the privilege of staying. How completely outrageous is that? Well, it's not really surprising anymore, is it, in May's Britain, in Tory Britain? No, but it has been cold. To be fair, it's been fucking freezing. At our place, it was a wind chill of minus 14 yesterday. And our rescue chickens didn't look too pleased. In fact, we had to rescue our rescue chickens because it was fucking freezing. And we were worried about them freezing to death. So they spent the last 2 days and nights in the shed. We've had to put them in the shed in the allotment out of the wind. Anyway, let's not worry about all this because according to Nigel Farage, large parts of central London have no salt on the roads. Perhaps they are also convinced by global warming they never thought any would be needed. There you go. There's always some Brexit-loving right-wing twat, isn't there, saying that global warming doesn't exist. But there was some replies. A bloke called Alan Packnadell replied, it's because warm air pushed Arctic air south. The Arctic is currently 35 degrees warmer than it should be this time of year. Because of climate change, ye gods, you're dim. And an even better insult on Twitter for him from Technically Ron, who wrote, that's not how global warming works, you gammon-faced shit flute. Go read a book. Nice one, Technically Ron.
The Frogbit blog.
Well, one interesting thing about this really cold weather is we've all been getting lots of unusual birds in the garden. Loads of the country apparently been getting these birds called field fares, which usually hang out in, well, fields, obviously. Everyone's gardens are full of them, including ours, and they're like a big thrush with bits of red and grey. And to be honest, they're big feisty fuckers. They spend all their time chasing everything else away. I've had to put food in all four corners of the garden just so other birds get a look in. And I joined the Friends of Chris Packham page on Facebook, and there's lots of bird discussions on there. If you listen from the early days, you'll know I used to take the piss out of Chris. Oh, I take the piss out of Chris. Yeah, but really, it was just Bants, as they say. I think he's a top bloke. I'm just professionally jealous of him. Anyway, if you're into wildlife and stuff, join the Friends of Chris Packham. But you do have to be invited to join. So, if you're like working class or a bit chavvy, you might have to pass some sort of test. And I don't know, of course, I got straight in with my Oxbridge connections, No, but seriously, they're lovely people on there. So if you're into wildlife and stuff, try and join the Friends of Chris Packham on Facebook. Actually, I've just checked. They're not called Friends of Chris Packham. They're called We Support Chris Packham. I don't know if they pronounce it like that. I think that's just me. But I should have checked anyway. But they're a great group, really friendly, talk about nature and all that kind of thing. We support Chris Packham.
The Frogbit blog.
Anyway, corrections and apologies. Now, a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, some people said I did go too far with the sketch about the fox hunter who died falling from his horse. And all I said was he should have stayed at home, take ecstasy, because statistically it is, or it was when they last did the research, statistically safer to take ecstasy than going skiing or horse riding. He fell off his horse, all right? I wasn't taking the piss. Anyway, Amanda emailed in from Berkshire and asked, how would you like it if someone mocked your death? Well, to tell the truth, Amanda, I wouldn't actually give a fuck, as you know, because, well, I'd be dead. So seriously, take the piss all you want. I did ask my close family how they would feel if there were people online taking the piss out of me dying in revenge for all the time I'd take the piss out of dead animal abusers. And my family said, well, they released an official statement. To whom it may concern, when our dearly beloved Frogbit passes away,
it's party time!
Please feel free to take the piss, as we will all be abroad on an expensive holiday from all the money he has left us. Signed, the Frogbit family. So there you go. And again, I must apologise to the Scots. I seem to keep having to apologise to the Scots every week for suggesting that when they heard the word breed, because I was talking about some rare butterflies in Scotland breeding, and I said the word breed, and I suggested that they would cover it in lard and deep fry it. Well, again, a cheap shot. I'm sorry, a shallow, pathetic attempt at humour by stereotyping a whole race of kilt-wearing, porridge-eating ginger people. Sorry. There's also been a lot of people offended by my series on drugs. Not me on drugs, by my series on drugs. Yep, I've insulted the Mexicans, the Siberians and the Egyptians by suggesting all their ancestors were drug-taking weirdos. Well, that's not strictly true, is it, listeners? I didn't say they were all at it. I just said the upper-class ones, and the royalty and stuff. The peasants had to make do with drinking the intoxicating urine of the mushroom-eating rich. It's sort of a metaphor for today's present society, just to show that plus ça change, eh? And I bet you didn't know I spoke French, did you? Now, this is one of them things that makes me sound like a grumpy old man, doesn't it? And I sound like an old fart here. But I was sort of on the internet and I was just wondering when and why did it become acceptable, in fact desirable, to miss the E out of a word and use it as a brand name? So you've got things like Tumblr, Flickr, Grindr. What is that about, really? Is there any need to miss the E out unless it's to save time? I remember I did a sketch a while back about saying parboiled instead of part-boiled. So for all you that are going to say Flickr or Tumblr instead of Tumblr or Flickr, make sure that you save all those extra seconds up to do something good with. If you're going to miss the E out, make sure that you save them so in a few years' time, you'll be able to use that time wisely and have a free holiday or something. And I did suggest this to someone and they said, shut up, you wanker.
The Frogbit blog.
Now, a couple of episodes back, I was talking about the concept of the infinite universe theory. Remember, there is a possibility that there are an infinite number of universes out there that will contain infinite but slightly different versions of you and everything you can think of. And remember, I sort of made a really funny joke. No, it was really. No, by suggesting someone somewhere in one of these universes will be singing the Beatles lyric, Raspberry Fields for the next half hour. Or even the music. The arse of the badger. Actually, having said that, Badger's arse is probably a real ale, isn't it? There's probably already one that exists. Anyway, I asked you to email in with suggestions, and I've only had a couple so far. So just to remind you, listeners, get your fucking asses into gear, you humorless bastards. That's a way to build a good listenership, Frogbit. Anyway, sorry about that, but come on, get your acts together. Anyway, Simon from Leamington Spa got in touch. And I'd just like to say, Simon, have you only got one supermarket in Leamington? And do you have to send your emails from there? Anyway, Simon from Leamington Spa suggested that in an infinite universe, there will be a rock band that insists on having really, really clean guitars, really, really clean amps, and the stage will be thoroughly washed before they perform. And they will be called OCDC. Nice one, Simon. No, and the other one was Graham from Scarborough, who emailed in to say, Frogbit, dear Frogbit, on the Beatles theme, in an infinite universe, there will be someone listening to a Beatles song, and it will be a tribute to the wonder and the benefits of seaweed. And it will go, kelp, I need some bloody kelp, not just any bloody kelp. No, I need somebody's kelp. Graham, that is genius. Well done, mate. Now, we haven't asked man or woman in the street recently what they think about anything, and we thought we'd go out there and ask them what they thought of the really cold weather and global warming and all that sort of thing. So anyway, this is us when we're out asking man and woman in the street.
Hello, man in the street. Do you think in any way the current weather is caused by global warming?
You've got to be fucking joking, ain't you? It's fucking freezing. It's all that fucking foreign cold air coming over here, taking our good old-fashioned English weather. I suppose at least the snow's white though, innit? I'm amazed they allow white snow now, you know. All them Muslims coming over here insisting on Muslim snow. You know, halal snow.
Oh, you object to halal slaughter. Are you a vegetarian or are you concerned with animal welfare?
Well, when it's them bloody Muslims I ain't, innit? I want my animals mistreated and killed the good old-fashioned English way.
Anyway, back to global warming. You do know the current bad weather is caused by the Arctic being over 30 degrees warmer than it normally is and pushing cold air down here to us, the English.
Don't you get fucking clever with me, you smart ass. I didn't vote Brexit to be told what by the intellectual elite like you what it is. I want good old-fashioned English common sense.
I'll do this interview then. Hello, woman in the street. What do you think of the cold weather?
Well, it used to be like this all the time during the war. Indeed, snow was just about the only thing that wasn't rationed back then. You could buy from the butchers, shilling a bucketful. And if you were lucky, you might find a bit of scrag end, a mutton chop or something, a bit of trotter or tripe in the bottom.
Really?
You know, we may do with all sorts of questionable gristle, and we're glad of it, young man. None of this best fillet of this and that and la-di-da. We used everything from the eyeball to the bumhole in those days.
I think that's more information that we needed, actually, woman in the street.
And, oh yes, we used to make a lovely snow soup, we did. And then we'd save up any spare snow we had to get ready to throw at those Germans when they showed up. They didn't like the snow, those Germans.
Okay, thank you very much for that, woman in the street. Back to the studio. It's bloody freezing out here.
Frogbitblog.
So, let's have some good news, eh? About time we had some good news, innit? There's going to be a total ban on bee-harming pesticides likely after a major new EU analysis. Over to the newsreader.
The world's most widely used insecticides, neonicotinoids, pose a serious danger to both honeybees and wild bees, according to a major new assessment from the European Union Scientific Risk Assessors. The conclusion, based on analysis of more than 1,500 studies, makes it highly likely that the neonicotinoid pesticides will be banned from all fields across the EU when the nations vote on the issue next month.
Pesky EU with all their red tape and regulations, eh? All that bloody red tape, eh? In other news...
Foie gras and badger culling will be banned under new animal welfare measures proposed by the Labour Party, in a move described by activists as the beginning of the end of cruelty factory farming. The practice of force-feeding geese and ducks in order to fatten their livers is widely considered cruel and inhumane, leading Labour to advocate an end to imports of this delicacy in a new policy document released on Wednesday. Labour is also proposing further curbs on hunting with dogs, mandatory CCTV in abattoirs, and a ban on the export of live animals for slaughter under a new animal welfare bill.
Who's Bill? So anyway, now interesting, while we're on the subject of foie gras, is that how you pronounce it? Foie gras? I don't speak French. Actually, I said early on that I do speak French, so I'll take that back. I read an article last week about lab-grown foie gras. I've talked about before about lab-grown meat, and it seems that foie gras may be one of the first, as it's expensive anyway. And the problem with this lab-grown meat is getting down the cost of the lab. Getting down the cost is the serum needed, and it's expensive at the moment. Now remember, all this lab-grown stuff is cruelty-free. It can take cells painlessly from living animals. Anyway, this company is working towards producing foie gras, and it's a project called Project Jake, and there's a woman scientist working on it. And they partnered with a local pasture-based firm to identify the highest quality birds to painlessly source the cells from. Okay, you can even take stem cells from the root of a detached feather. And the chicken that this woman was on about was called Ian.
Wow.
So anyway, this is the interview with the woman.
Yeah, so we got Ian from the farm and brought him to his new home in the backyard, where rather than being slaughtered at only a few weeks old, he lived out his life as a chicken should. Meeting Ian reminded me that despite the many late nights in the lab, this is all worth it. We're doing this for the chickens.
And this woman is responsible for making some of the world's first animal-free meat. Yep. And the woman, ironically, is vegetarian, is religious-based vegetarian. She won't actually get to taste the fruits or the meats of her labour.
It is real meat and animal product.
But without the cruelty involved. So that's a start. Anyway, that's a positive thing.
Frogbitblog.
Frogbit on drugs!
So, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have been sent some white powder through the post, it has been reported in the Daily Telegraph. When police asked for the package so that they could test it, an embarrassed Harry said, it's all gone, I'm afraid. We thought it was an early wedding present from one of our many Eton friends. And there's actually been a story in this week's Metro, of all places, about the benefits of LSD. Yeah, the psychedelic drug LSD is capable of harmonising brain activity and could have a therapeutic, well, they spelt it wrong, a therapeutic benefit in the treatment of mental health conditions like depression or PTSD, it has been claimed. A neuroscientist from Centre for Brain and Cognition at the Universitat Pompeu Fabra in Barcelona has claimed that taking acid results in the reorganisation of brain dynamics and the emergence of a new type of order in the brain. I'm sure they didn't speak in a Birmingham accent in Barcelona, but you never know. Maybe if they take acid, they do. Maybe actually that's what acid makes you do. Anyway, a neuroscientist from the Centre for Brain and Cognition at the Universitat Pompeu Fabra in Barcelona has claimed that taking acid results in the organisation of brain dynamics and the emergence of a new type of order in the brain. The researcher scanned the brains of 12 people who took LSD or a placebo. What she found is that the drug appears to encourage the brain to work slightly differently. The best way to understand this is by using a musical analogy. And here's the analogy. Just like jazz musicians use many more musical notes in a spontaneous and non-random fashion, LSD encourages the use of different parts of the brain. How's that a fucking music analogy? It's rubbish. If they said something like it makes you hear colours and act like a fucking hippie, I might have been more impressed. But anyway, positive drug story. Now on to another drug story. Has been watching the Winter Olympics? I haven't. Anyway, a curler. Is that the right word for someone who does curling? Is it a curler or is it a curlinger? Anyway, a curler has been banned from the Winter Olympics for being found positive in a drugs test. The Russian curler Alexander Krushelnitsky has been stripped of his mixed doubles bronze medal for curling. And now the men's mixed double curling final, the Russian team. Come on, Ivan, it's our turn. Quickly, I'm doing Scottish here, it's meant to be Russian. Come on, Ivan, it's our turn. Quickly, pass me the spliff. Shit, man. My short-term memory is gone, man. What are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do, man?
See that stone with a handle on it? Well, you throw it down the ice rink and try and bish-bosh the others out of the way.
Seriously, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
No, seriously, man.
Well, when I'm doing this, what are you gonna do, man, when I'm throwing the stone?
I get a broom, man. And I brush the fucking ice, man, like really quickly.
You're fucking kidding me. What the fuck do you do that for, man?
Well, I'm fucked if I know, but it damn looks good.
What happens if we win, man?
Get a shiny medal and a parade in Moscow.
What, for that?
Yeah, man.
Okay, here goes, man.
Now, who the fuck would take drugs to go curling? How could that possibly help you in any way, shape or form? It's like taking drugs to improve your tiddlywinks capabilities, isn't it? Fucking pointless. Look, if you're gonna cheat, I'm not saying you do, but if you're gonna cheat on drugs, at least do it properly. At least cheat and do the high jump. So at least you could do the high jump in every sense of the word. Now, another drug story that's not quite so funny. I mean, I do drug stories a lot, and I'm not trying to promote them or suggest that people should do them. It's more to point out the absurdity in our current attitude. When it looks like the whole of the world has been doing them forever. Now, you're only allowed to do pharmaceutical ones. You know, in America, cannabis is being legalized in various states, and now the Trump administration are trying to crack down at the state level. Even though Republicans obviously are generally against state interference in people's lives unless there's money to be made from it, obviously. And I'm talking about the opioid crisis. Okay, so a quick summary. A pharmaceutical company bring out a painkiller containing synthetic opioids that are highly addictive. They lavish lots of money across the country, whining and dining doctors and health professionals and everyone else involved in that fucking mess of a health service they've got over there. Here's a report.
From 1996 to 2001, American drug giant Purdue Pharma held more than 40 national pain management symposia at picturesque locations, playing host to thousands of American doctors, nurses and pharmacists. During the same time period, Purdue more than doubled its sales force and distributed coupons so that doctors could prescribe patients with a 30-day free supply of these highly addictive drugs.
So yes, you heard that right. They give out a month's free supply. That's classic drug dealer modus operandi, isn't it? And I bet you didn't know I spoke Latin. Anyway, so these doctors start handing them out like Smarties, and guess what? People become addicted. Millions of them. Well, who'd have thought it, hey? Giving people addictive opium as painkillers was gonna create addicts. And ka-ching for the families who are all billionaires and spend money ingratiating themselves into high society by funding art galleries and bribing politicians. Pharmaceutical companies spend far more than any other industry to influence politicians. In America, drug makers have poured close to $2.5 billion into lobbying and funding members of Congress over the past decade. So these billionaire drug dealers buy acceptability while people die. And when the authorities realised that there was a problem here and started cutting back on supply of the drug, people who were addicted had to go and find heroin, backstreet illegal heroin, and they started dying. Nearly 100 people a day are dying from opioid addiction. 100 a day.
Wow.
Imagine that. Imagine that the government should maybe come up with some funds for some programs to help them out. Nah, fuck it. Let's spend millions flying Trump to his golf resort every weekend at huge expense and charge the government for his miners to stay there. Oh, how about let's spend 30 million quid on a military parade? 30 million quid to pretend Pumpy Trumpy hasn't got small hands and an even smaller cock. Draft dodger Trump wants soldiers saluting him. Yes, and wants women to go weak-kneed at his long, shiny missile. That's what it's about, isn't it, that? An ego trip like some Roman emperor. Well, it's March soon, so beware the Ides of March, you fucker. Anyway, back to the story, yes. So he won't help and he won't spend any money to help the addicts who were created by addicts of big pharmaceutical companies. Now, there is a real scandalous drug story. But, oh no, cannabis is evil. Listen to this. A 6-year-old boy whose rare form of epilepsy dramatically improved after using cannabis has been denied a request for medical cannabis licence from the government. Alfie Dingley from Kenilworth in Warwickshire has a child of epilepsy that causes multiple seizures. He experiences up to 30 fits a day and once had 3,000 seizures and 48 hospital visits in the space of the year. The young boy saw his seizures considerably reduced when he travelled to the Netherlands to take cannabis-based medication prescribed. Yep. It's estimated that with the Dutch cannabis medication, Alfie would have about 20 seizures a year. But the Home Office has denied the family request for medical cannabis oil, which remains illegal. It's said the drug cannot be practically prescribed and administered or supplied to the public. So there you have it. You have a multitude of pharmaceutical drugs with hideous side effects. You can give your kids them, but you can't give your kid cannabis oil that will massively help with seizures. What a fucked up world we live in, eh?
The Frogbit blog.
So that's all this week for
Frogbit on drugs.
Right, you know how I like to talk about green issues, but also sometimes about the universe and all that hippie stuff. Well, I thought I'd combine them. Little green men. I mean, I've been meaning to talk about this for a while because it's interesting, isn't it? It's an interesting subject. I think we can probably all agree that there'll be life on other planets and other solar systems, one form or another. It might be just simple bacteria, or it may be more advanced. And this is when it gets interesting, really, isn't it? Yeah, whether more advanced civilizations come and visit us. I mean, I like to think of myself as level-headed. I rely on evidence before I'm convinced. And you know what? When you start looking, there's fucking loads of evidence out there that were visited by aliens. Loads. And I think we individually have to weigh up and see whether we believe it's true or not. And I'm sort of going through that process. And I've tried to talk to people about it. I talked to my Geordie friends about it. And I said to one of them the other day, do you believe in aliens? And he said, why, aye, woman, man. And I said, well, I asked him, what would you do if you saw a spaceman? And he said, why, I'd park in it, man. So you see, I'm not going to get any sense from the Geordies, so I thought I'd ask you, the listeners, to see what you think. I was thinking, firstly, Roswell is an anagram of was real. Well, if you change a couple of letters, it's an anagram of was real, Roswell. And secondly, I was thinking this, if these fucking visitors from space are so advanced, how come they keep crashing their fucking UFOs into Earth? It's not like it's not a big target. Are they drunk aliens? Or maybe even aliens on drugs? And I've been watching a few documentaries recently, proper ones, not weird internet conspiracy ones, so I suppose it's all a bit weird. I suppose, you know, it does attract sort of weird internet conspiracy type people that need something in their life, like they need a religion, and I don't think I am that. But just because it's full of people like that, it doesn't mean that the whole premise isn't true. And the one that interests me, I'm not asked about looking at all these little videos of something flying through the sky. The ones that really interest me, the Disclosure Project, because in 2001 and again in 2010, astronauts, high-ranking soldiers, airline pilots, military personnel gathered at the American Press Club to tell their stories about their encounters with alien craft in the line of their work. And this is people who have little to lose and a lot to lose and little to gain by coming forward. And a lot of these witness testimonies available on YouTube. And if you type in Serious Project, surely you can't be serious. I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. Anyway, if you type in Serious Project witness testimony, there are 35 hours of interviews. Some 10 minutes long, some an hour long, some good, some a bit boring. And I'm watching these thinking, are all these people, and it's mainly men, are they all weirdo fantasies? All of them, every single one of them, that face ridicule, usually for no financial gain. Are they all making this stuff up? That's the bit I find hard to believe. And I'm watching these testimonies looking for obvious signs of weirdness and all that shit. And the thing is about this is only one of them has to be telling the truth for the whole premise to be true. You know what I mean? Either we've been visited by aliens or we haven't. So if one of them is not lying, then it's all true. And I've been looking to debunk this stuff. I really want to check. I wondered if there was any psychological profiling that makes all these people who were coming forward and all the believers fit into a category. And this is what I found in Psychology Today. It's interesting, this. In the UK, polls suggest that more people believe in UFOs than God. For example, one recent poll found out that 42% of UK residents believe in UFOs, but only 25% believe in God. It says, in general, belief in alien visitors and other fringe magical beliefs, such as belief in ghosts, seem to be increasing. Fringe magical belief. How is a scientifically plausible idea that we're not alone in the universe and advanced civilizations just like us, advanced technologies, seek space travel just like we do, and much more advanced civilizations, of which there must be some, have found a way of a shortcut through travel in a space line, through, in space. They found a quick way of getting from planet to planet. That isn't a fringe magical belief. You might not believe it or true, but it's science, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now because I'm not exactly sure what I think of all this. But if you're interested in this kind of stuff, have a look at the Disclosure Project and watch some of the witness testimonies and see what you think, because it's quite fascinating, isn't it? And apparently 42% of us in the UK think that, and I'm sure it's the same in America. Yeah, just thinking back to that Badger's Arse Real Ale, I was thinking, how long will it be before some enterprising real ale microbrewery company or whatever comes up with a new ale to celebrate this bad weather we're having, and they could call it the Beast from the Yeast. Hey, how about that? Look, I'm going to call it a day there for now. Next episode, I'm interviewing a couple of minimalists, which is going to be quite interesting. So that'll be a different kind of episode next week. Don't forget to feed the birds. Do everything you can, and stay warm, and see you soon. Bye!
Frogbitblog. Frogbitblog. The Frogbitblog.